All right, thanks, Bill, and thanks everybody for showing up tonight. Um, I want to share a devotional I've put together that I've sort of entitled "Getting Better, Not Good." And for tonight's scriptures, if everybody wants to maybe go ahead and earmark a couple chapters, we're going to look at some verses, namely in Matthew 23, Mark 12, and Luke 12. So Matthew 23, Mark 12, and Luke 12. And Job 1 at the very end. So just an introductory verse, Philippians 3:14. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Let's have a quick word of prayer. Lord, thank you for the freedom and safety to come here and worship tonight. We do pray you be with the many health needs, and be especially with Pastor Ben and Ashley as they travel. We do pray that you grant them a safe trip back to Pennsylvania. Be with us as we get home tonight, and give us the freedom to be here again Sunday, if that's your will, and we ask this in your name. Amen. So, getting better, not good. I've noticed over the past year or two that our church has a spiritual theme every year that we try to follow throughout the whole year. And I've tried to make a practice myself to have a personal spiritual goal or a spiritual theme every year. In 2023, my goal was back to the basics, or to pursue old school Christian living, as I called it. For 2024, my goal is improvement and betterment. And as just a little bit of a background about me. Most people that know me know that over the past couple of years, I've been involved with a gymnasium that teaches a couple of martial arts courses. And one of the systems that we study and teach is called Jiu-Jitsu. It's a very complex, very beautiful system, numerous moves, maneuvers, positions. And the thing that's so beautiful about this system is that there's not one right way to do anything. You can take one simple move and modify it as many ways as you can think of. Everybody can do it differently. And it's an ever-evolving system, and the learning process never really ends. And pretty soon, whenever you enter the practice of jiu-jitsu, you learn pretty quickly that it takes a lot of patience, self-correction, endurance, humility, and almost continual introspection and self-betterment. And not too long ago, Hillary got home from school one day, and we were talking about how our day went. And she said, "Hey, somebody asked about you if you were still training." And I told him, "Yeah." And she said, "They said, is he getting good at jiu-jitsu?" And I said, "You don't get good at jiu-jitsu. You get better. The goal is not to get good. The goal is to get better." Here's a couple sentences out of a journal entry that I wrote, just journaling my thoughts and prayers a little while ago. If you think you're getting good or that you have gotten good, then I feel sorry for you because you've stopped getting better. It is more profitable to continually get better but never bluntly good than to get good and to stop getting better. There is no getting good, there is only getting better. February 2nd, 2024. And just a couple of quotes here. I've run across in my studies. I've run across a couple of quotes about the system and the practice of jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to share a couple quotes about it now. One quote says, "There are no expert techniques. There are only basic techniques done on an expert level." And a new quote that I really love this quote. In jiu-jitsu, it's not what you don't know that holds you back, and it's not what you know that holds you back. It's what you think you know that holds you back. So that quote is to emphasize that in the system, if you want to learn it, you have to have an open mind and be willing to learn all the time. Now, with that, I'm convinced that there's a pitfall and there's a trap where we think about getting good, or we think that we've gotten good at something, but we stop getting better. And the trap that we fall into is we start to think that we're good. And what happens then? We get comfortable. we get complacent, we stop growing, we stop putting effort into whatever it is. And we get off of the path of humility and introspection that I talked about earlier. And here's a little thing I wrote called a formula for life. A little humility and a little effort go a long way. So with this concept of getting better and not good, I've made an application to my martial arts interests with it. Honestly, I think you can apply this to any sport, any athletic pursuit that you can think of. But also, I want to suggest tonight that we can apply this concept to our daily life, how we conduct ourselves at work, at home, in our marriage. But I want to suggest that we can apply this concept to our Christian life. And with that, I've got three examples from the Bible, three cases where people felt that they were in good shape, but they stopped getting better, and they really weren't in good shape in the end. Let's look at Matthew chapter 23, if everybody wants to go ahead and turn there with me. We'll look at verse 27 and then flip just a little bit back to 13 and 14. Before that, though, I'll read Matthew 6:5. You don't have to turn there. When thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. They like to look good. They like everybody to think they're in good shape. What's Jesus say? They have their reward. Matthew 23:27. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. Just a couple of verses back, Matthew 23:13 and 14. We hear again, but woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, for ye neither go in yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in. They think they're the only ones going to heaven, and they think it's theirs to distribute. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. You don't have to turn here, but let's just turn to Mark 12 if we're there already. So Mark 12, 38 to 40. This is something I call a reflex verse. We just read Matthew 23, 13 and 14. This is another verse in another book that says the same exact thing, a reflex verse, as I call it, Mark 12, 38 to 40. He said unto them in his doctrine, beware of the scribes, which love to go in long clothing and love salutations in the marketplaces, and the chief seats in the synagogues and the uppermost rooms at feasts, which devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. These shall receive what? Greater damnation. Reflex verse. So what's the summary? Scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites. What's Jesus say? They like to look good. They like everybody to think that they're right up there with God. They enjoy the long robes, the salutations, the status, the long prayers. What's the common denominator? Jesus says they'll receive greater damnation. It's what you think you know that holds you back. By the way, in Matthew chapter 23, I'm pretty sure I counted, Jesus says scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites 7 times. And he also says blind guides and Pharisees as a singular once or twice. But this collective word, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, Jesus says it 7 times. And all 7 times he says, woe unto you. I made this statement 1 or 2 other times whenever I was sharing devotionals or speaking in churches. I really, really believe that in the Bible, if God says something once, it's time to listen up. If God says it twice, it's no longer an option. It's too late to make changes. So what about whenever God says it 7 times? So a second case, let's look at Luke chapter 12. Luke 12 verses 16 to 21. A really, really familiar parable. I'll give you a second to turn there if you're not there already. So Luke 12, 16 to 21. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. He thinks he doesn't have to work anymore. He's arrived. There's no need to improve. Doesn't need anything else. No need for improvement, no need for betterment. Verse 20, God says unto him, You fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee, and then who shall those things be which thou hast provided? He thinks he's arrived, thinks he has everything, no need to improve. One verse later, it's judgment day. Verse 21, So is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. Back to my key quote, it's what you think you know that holds you back. Moving on then to our third point, Revelation chapter 3. If everybody wants to go ahead and turn there with me, I'll give you a few minutes. Revelation chapter 3, we're going to look at verses 14 to 17. Revelation 3, 14 to 17. This is where Jesus addresses the church of the Laodiceans. And these are three or four verses say a lot, but they're addressed to a church. Let's try to keep that in mind as we read it. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, These things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Verse 17, Because thou sayest, I am rich, and increase with goods, and have need of nothing. Does that sound familiar? We just heard that from a rich fool, didn't we? Same exact words. Have need of nothing. And knowest thou not that thou art wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked? This is an address to a church that thinks it's in good shape. It stopped improving, stopped getting better, but is it in good shape? No, Jesus says, you think you have everything, but you're wretched, miserable, poor, blind, naked. And by the way, if it can happen to this church, it can happen to any church. Once again, it's like I keep saying, it's what you think you know that holds you back. So those are my three cases from the Bible where people thought that they were in good shape, but they weren't. Let's look at one more thing. If everybody would, why don't we turn to Job chapter 1? I'll give you a minute to turn there if you're not there already. Job chapter 1, 1 through 5. So, and while you're turning there, this is an example of someone from the Bible who was successful, who did have a lot of things going for him, but he never stopped serving God, and he never stopped improving. So Job 1 through 5, verse 1. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East. So Job had assets. He was rich. He was great. He was the greatest man in the East. Verse 4, his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And it was so when the days of their feasting were gone about that Job sent and sanctified them and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, It may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. He rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings, and it says that Job did this continually. He continually gave offerings. He continually kept serving God, and he never stopped getting better. Unlike the rich fool in Luke 12 that we looked at earlier. So with that, we're almost done, actually. The topic for tonight has been what I've called getting better, not good. And I present this as sort of a challenge as we go about our work, our marriage, our athletics, and our Christian walk. I would encourage us, and I would challenge us to try to keep improving, even keep correcting ourselves if needed. And unlike the rich man in Luke 12 that had everything but wasn't rich toward God, let's try to be like Job. And even if we are successful, and even if we have everything under control, let's keep serving God continually and keep improving. One or two last points here. I've noticed that there's this attitude that sort of prevails where people say, I'm in good shape, or I'm doing fine, I'm in good shape for the shape I'm in, I don't need anything. Anyone ever heard that? I've heard that same exact phrase. It may be reworded a little bit from probably 3 or 4 unsaved people that I've tried to witness to over the years. They all said the same thing. They think they're doing fine by themselves. And they won't admit their need for Christ. And you know what? To this day, I don't really think any of them are saved. They think they have it all under control, but they won't admit their need for Christ. Last couple of verses. You don't have to turn there, but I'll read Matthew 7, 13 and 14. A couple of verses that Jesus said. Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. So the path to destruction is easy. The path to success is continual, hard, and uphill. And what's Jesus say? Few there be that find it. So as we close here, like I said, I would challenge us to try to avoid getting into the trap of thinking that we're good or that we don't need to improve. And the only way to do that is to stay accountable and stay on the path of humility, improvement, introspection, and even self-correction when it's needed. And again, basically the challenge that I have for everybody as 2024 goes on is try to get better, not good. That's all I have. We'll dismiss the praying groups then.